Lead Time is a weekly dose of leadership insights and interviews from Tim Allman and Jake Besseling. Lead Time is for any leader living in a busy world looking to be inspired, equipped, and empowered to lead others to their fullest potential. This is Lead Time.
Welcome to Lead Time. Tim Allman here with Jake Besseling. We believe that eternities are changed when you as a leader choose to grow. Today we have Jack Kalleberg with us, a Director of Finance and Operations at Christ Greenfield. I think, Jack, you've been with us a couple, 3 times or so. It's always a pleasure. We get asked by a lot of folks, what books should I, like in the plethora, I don't know what it is, the stats of like a book, a second almost that's being published today. So you can just get inundated. I know right now I got a stack of books that I want to read and other people want me to read and that kind of stuff. So how do you make strategic decisions about types of books? You were saying there's really 4, maybe even 5 types of books for a leader.
And so this has been an interesting time for us. We've been rolling out the Catalyst program, teaching people to be coaches, leaders of leaders. And so we're blending theological training and leadership training. And so we have to ask the question, like, if we just go and create a primer of the most important types of books, what would that be? So I've been thinking about the stuff that we rely on heavily and started to see that there's a pattern of like maybe 4 primary types of books. And so, and they can kind of be maybe on the spectrum, but they kind of work together. So on one end of the spectrum is what we would call high level organizational strategic leadership books. How do you serve as an executive over an entire organization and be a great leader in that role and have a team that steers? Good to Great is the perfect example. We're going to be talking about that today.
Exactly.
So high-level organizational strategic books, that's the focus.
A lot of times people will talk about vision books. I mean, you
vision
throwing that
books.
in there, right there?
Yeah, typically they'll always have a vision part to it, right? On the other side of the spectrum then is what we call team leadership, right? So this is a book that speaks to somebody who is like primarily running a team, right? The first level of leadership beyond just being a worker, a contributor, is leading other people. So people need guidance at that level. That's a big transition from leading yourself to leading others.
And one of the best secular books, you would say?
The 9 Lies About Work is a book that really leans into the importance of team leadership and how to do effective team leadership.
Now there's a couple types of books that are kind of right in the middle.
Right, so we got the high-level strategic books, we have the team leader sort of ground-level books, and then in between the sandwich of these 2 pieces of bread, the meat and the cheese, is what we would call them systems books and development books, people development books, right? Because ultimately, you know, what are the things that a person could be called to do in their career of leadership? Lead a team, build systems, build people, lead an organization, right? And so that seems to cover the core spectrum of books that we would build a curriculum on. So, and then there's a 5th.
People development. Let's give a couple examples of people development books.
People development books. So, you know, it has to be contextual for your organization, but there's 2 books that we really love right now. The Multiplication Effect with Matt Lake. Yep. And Empowering Leaders, right?
Michael Fletcher.
And we've had the blessing of being able to chat with them and build a relationship with both of those authors. And we're leaning on both of their content in our accelerator program.
It's really easy to get at a system example.
System, 4DX, 4 disciplines of execution, right? How do you run projects, strategic projects? Death by meeting is a perfect example. How do you run meetings? It's very systemic.
It is.
In the church context, again, industry context, the church has its own systems that it needs to nail. So one of the books we lean on very heavily, Simple Church, all about creating simple discipleship. Very systems
and no matter what kind of leader you are out there, you can definitely find books in all of these arenas. What's that 5th one you were mentioning?
5th category then is, it's not necessarily specifically into one of these categories. The purpose of the book would be what I would call an autobiographical, anecdotal book, and they might fit into one of those categories, but it's really about somebody telling their story. That's the primary thing. And so it can be I don't know that I would build a curriculum on them. It's really more about what type of inspiration does a specific person need.
It's interesting. I just read Creative Inc. by Catmull and about Pixar's development, and it was kind of that. It was really autobiographical of their history and their journey, but it also peppered in the different areas of your sandwich, you know? So, but I was also frustrated because I was like, I wanted a book on the notes day that he had, but he only served it for 3 to 4 pages.
Right. So that can be the frustration of those books.
I don't run Pixar.
Right. And some of those books can be really, really beneficial for a person that needs inspiration, a specific person that needs a specific type of inspiration. Some of those can also be what we would call vanity projects, right? And we've heard Patrick Lencioni talk about a leader wanting to talk about how great he is through the form of an autographical leadership book, right? So you've got really great ones, and you've got other ones.
Are you at a point where?
Yeah, I'm. Eventually
on that first manuscript. So the last year has been very difficult, Jack. I can't believe we've been in the pandemic, leading through this craziness for a year now. So what have been some of the biggest challenges, the biggest opportunities and wins in your role?
Yeah, let's talk about wins first. I like to talk about positive, and then I like to talk about challenge. So with COVID coming and the church going through a shutdown and pretty much everything shutting down for a season, it was a challenge, but it was also, a lot of times we find blessing in the challenges that were provided. So the analogy I like to talk about for church, how church was impacted by COVID, is the analogy of the chessboard, right? So if you're a great chess player, people who play chess know the most powerful piece of the chessboard is the queen. The queen can do anything, right? So people leading the church, the most powerful chessboard for the church is Sunday morning. Sunday morning is the time that everybody is gathered. Sunday morning is the time that you have the most influence, the most attention from people. It's the time that we have the most opportunity to galvanize.
It's culturally the day where people met to hear a sermon and worship.
If you want to be an awesome chess player, learn how to play chess without the queen. Take away the queen and figure out how to play chess with only the other pieces, right? Do that for a season. And that's what the church had to do. We took away the queen, which was people on campus Sunday mornings, and we realized we have all of these other tools that we're not using effectively. The camera that we're speaking into right now, our media team, the lights, podcasts, YouTube, all of these other abilities to reach the community that we hadn't necessarily leaned on because we're so heavily focused, and we should be focused, on Sunday morning in-person worship. So you do this for a season as a chess player, you get to master these other pieces, and then after you master these pieces, you put the queen back. Now all of a sudden you're a much better chess player. And so I think that'll be the case for Christ Greenfield and a lot of churches that really leaned into alternative ways of delivering ministry and discipleship.
Yeah, all I was thinking about as you're talking is Queen's Gambit.
Yeah.
Like this girl, like the mastermind, everything.
Jack was laying in his bed, just seeing the chess piece. That was a beautiful analogy, though. I mean, to take that queen apart, and because you always lean on that heavily. Also, I was thinking about not only the digital space that you were mentioning a lot of references to. If you take the queen back and you can't use that, some of the rooks and the pawns were old methods of simply using the phone to call someone, to care for them, to write a letter, to say a sign of support, to send a quick video message. And so I think care, hopefully in churches and leaders and in your families, was really risen to the top. And we should keep that after COVID as well.
So let's think about this now that we're going through this season. You know, our campuses have been open up. We're still a fraction of in-person worship, but we've got about 500 visiting us now on Sundays. We got 1,500 or more, sometimes 1,800 visiting us online regularly through the different channels. So what that means now, if you consider that worship attendance is that our worship attendance has nearly doubled during the time of COVID. And if all of a sudden everybody who's joining us digitally wanted to come in person, we actually wouldn't have the ability to accommodate everybody right now.
Well, we'd be adding a lot of
Three services.
We'd be adding services like crazy.
East Mesa.
Could take them all right in the big space, but
We would go to 4 services.
right.
From 1.
So we would love that, but we also recognize that that's not happening overnight, and our digital connection is not going anywhere. If anything, we're going to be continuing to double down as we learn to see how valuable it is.
Yeah.
And of course, the anecdote from churches that were on the leading edge of this, that leaned into digital church before COVID, the fear is, if we do online, it's going to take away from Sunday mornings. No, it just adds to Sunday mornings. It creates a bigger, wider network of people that are joining you, and it ultimately does become an on-ramp to Sunday morning worship.
Last question around where we're at right now. I've talked to a number of different church leaders, and I've not heard one say that their generosity has declined in the last fiscal year, which is really astonishing. Do you think church leaders should be kind of proud about that, or what do you think the dynamic is there?
Or you're talking to a certain group of people. So, you start talking to maybe some different churches and different that you might not roll with as much.
Mostly talking to marginally healthy congregations. You're exactly right.
I think there are some other churches that maybe, I think the churches that were smaller and honestly had unhealthy gaps there probably didn't see that generosity and kind of shrunk a little bit.
Right.
And then the healthier ones. Yeah. Any take on that?
Yeah, we've seen studies that a significant percentages of churches will not continue beyond a year, probably somewhere in the range of 30 to 35%.
Yeah.
That's probably where you're seeing that impact. Our generosity has increased by 10%, and we've seen a big shift to online giving. And to us, this is something we really celebrate, because online giving is such a great, healthy way to practice giving. It's very first fruits. It's very much, I want to program it to be the first thing that comes out of my paycheck. And so you time it, and it just you don't forget to do it.
Habit.
You don't necessarily say that because what happens is people may miss a Sunday, so they don't give that Sunday because they associate it with that. But it's really no, this is a chance for you to practice worship, even if you can't physically be with us.
Amen.
Right.
Amen. Yeah, 8,000 churches prior to COVID were closing a year.
Yeah.
And Tom Rayner in Church Answers just read that it's going to be doubled in the next. So to that point of me being super optimistic about generosity, you're exactly right, Jake. I think a number of churches are going to be struggling. 16,000 churches closing in a year. Can we, with our 2020 vision, be a part of reigniting that church planning movement, multi-site, microsite, et cetera?
So real quick, I want to give a shout out when we celebrate about how adaptable our team is. The COVID season is a season that has required the church to do what we call fast pivots. That's right. You need to pivot quickly from what you were doing to doing something else, completely retool, and now build, measure, learn in a space that you're not entirely comfortable with. And I feel like our team did that beautifully. And so you would think that it would have been harder than it was, but because of the talent and the cohesiveness of our team, it made it easier than you would have expected.
Easy to talk about wins. Any one struggle that
struggles? Budgeting is a struggle. We went through a season of volatility. So even though our giving has gone up, it was we saw a season. We saw a big season of volatility that happened. That includes volatility with school enrollment. Our school enrollment is what I would call healthy and stable, but it went through a very volatile period. So we went through a season kind of saying, how on earth do I even build a budget, right? And so we ultimately came up with a strategy of creating an ABC budget, and then the PPP loan, and that became a big factor in budgeting. So we were able to come up with strategies, but it is kind of really for a season, really broken the mold on how we do budgeting.
Well, yeah, I come with certain types of requests.
Yeah.
It's normally, oh, yeah, we're going to be able to do that, or no, we're not. And for a significant period of time, it's been, we're going to have to wait and see.
Yep. And then our discipleship process, worship, small groups, serving, right? We've been able to stay strong in worship by going online, but it's hard to serve. It's hard to serve on a Sunday morning if you're joining worship online on Sunday, right? And so it's a struggle for us to engage people in service at the same level that it used to be when everybody was on Sundays. And it's also a struggle to maintain the momentum of small groups ministry. There are definitely plenty of small groups that are meeting online, but there's also a lot that say, this isn't for us, right? And so that's a struggle.
So let's, second half of the conversation here, coming down the home stretch, really, you have been teaching Good to Great to our Catalyst coach training for the last couple of months now. So what do you love most about Good to Great as it applies to the church, Jack?
Yeah, so first of all, we said the 4 categories of books. This is high-level organizational leadership, thinking very strategically, thinking very, very macro as opposed to micro. What I like about Good to Great, it's an older book. We say it's kind of a dated book.
Almost 20 years. Right?
Yeah, but I remember reading it about a year after it had come out, and I was like absolutely transformed by that book in terms of rethinking how to be an executive leader. I would say that Good to Great is foundational in that a lot of the books in that space of organizational leadership actually build on what Jim Collins did. The other things I love about it is very academic. It's based on academic research. So it starts with a premise of finding the great organizations and then deconstructing the things that make it great as opposed to competitors that perform only average. Yeah. So research-based, data-informed, right? Rather than anecdotal.
I mean,
certainly a lot of anecdotes in there, but
how many leaders, to your point here about Good to Great being foundational, how many leaders have used the metaphor of a bus and people on the bus in the right seat on the bus? It is unbelievable.
You hear about it all the time.
All the time, and we use it too.
We go to Global Leadership Summit, and we hear people speak, and every time I hear somebody speak at high-level stuff, I hear Jim Collins speaking through that person as they build onto it. Simon Sinek is an example of that. I hear him speaking in much greater depth of some of the things that are initially probably spoken about in Good to Great.
Yeah, so thank you, Jim Collins, for writing that and using that. And we'd love to have a second version of it, with updated stories even to see how it goes into the future. I'm reading a book right now that I know Tim has read about hero makers. And in Hero Maker, they talk about churches as level 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And when you get to level 3, that would be that you're just kind of putting leaders in place to serve that church only. And then if you go to level 4, I think we're kind of right there where we are adding campuses. But we really want to move toward a level 5, which is multiplication of a leader to a leader to a leader to a campus to even things you don't even know about are happening. And it's a multiplication movement. And I think anytime we explain that or someone explains it to us, the leader's heart is just like, wow, that is, if you're open to it, that's really what we want to see happen. We want this thing to outlive us. It's an infinite game. And so down the home stretch here, give us your top 5 learnings from Good to Great. And the first one here you have, I'll tell you what you said here, and it applies to level 5 then, is senior leaders, Collins says, must demonstrate level 5 leadership. So I talked about churches doing this. What does it mean for a leader to do level 5 leadership?
Yeah, this is, actually, I'm gonna be some confession here. This is one that had an impact on me because I've always, if I think about the thing that I need to always keep in check, it's personal humility, right? And so level 5 leaders, they talk about the progression of level 1 to level 5 leader, level 1 being a team leader of sorts, manager, and then level 4. So most of your executive leaders are level 4s or level 5s, most of them being level 4s, a small number of them being level 5s. The thing that they would have in common is a tremendous amount of drive. They are very, very, very driven, right? They've got the passion, they've got the drive. The thing that separates the 4 from the 5 is personal humility, right? And so one of the things we did in Catalyst, we did an exercise about what does leadership look like, high drive and high humility versus high drive and low humility. And you see radically different results. And we've used the word vanity project. Is leadership a vanity project, or is it really about investing yourself in the growth of the organization?
And level 4 leaders can have success.
Yes.
But it will not last.
Not durable, right? Because, and this is an interesting thing too, a level 4 leader leaves an organization. If that organization fails, that validates the level 4 leader. See, they can't survive without me. It makes them feel better about themselves.
Pretty insidious.
That's why humility then is the differentiator of 5, because a humble leader would be really frustrated if they were really in that seat of it failing.
The level 5 leader says, look, this organization has survived generations beyond me. We've really built something durable here. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
That gives me a lot of hope, because it says here that you don't have to be a larger than life celebrity leader, and so it gives all of us hope that it's not always about the charismatic, galvanizing spirit, well, although that's helpful, and we need those in our organizations. I mean, a lot of amazing leaders are also, they don't have that quality, but people around them do, so.
I heard the story. I mean, there's so many stories in the book. Just reading the other day, Procter & Gamble. Gamble's story of being a multi-billionaire. He stayed in the same home, I think in California, a small little home all of his life. And when he died, this is fantastic. He got the day he was born, dash the day he died. It said farmer, etc. Wow. That's it.
Isn't that something?
That's it.
Farmer.
He was a farmer, like connected
What do you want
to
to
his
really be
roots.
known for?
So yeah, talk about humility, man. I know we want that, and Jesus is the ultimate example of the most humble leader possible, right?
Yeah.
And think about Jesus. I mean, just real quick, give me 30 seconds on Jesus as a level 5 leader.
Well, Jesus created the upside down kingdom, right? So the upside down kingdom is that if you want to be the best leader, you have to be the best servant. Right, you have to wash other people's feet. You have to put yourself at the foot of the table, not the head of the table. Right, and so in doing that, he's role modeling what he is expecting for every single spiritual leader to set themselves to put the organizational chart upside down. I'm here to support, not to be supported. I'm not here to be on top of the pyramid. I'm here to help build up the pyramid, that others would move on and have a legacy beyond me.
Amen.
Right.
All right. Point number 2. We've already talked about. Get the right people on the bus in the right seats. Real quick on this. First what and then what?
Yeah. First who and then what. And so great organizations, let's say that you don't have a clear vision of what you're going to do. Let's say COVID hits and we don't know exactly how we're going to how to work in that, because that was never our strategic plan to shut Sunday mornings down, right? Well, you can make it work if you've got the right who. If you've got the right team, you've got the right talent, the right people that are able to pivot and rally behind the cause, because the what, the why is so important. So when you think about who, you want people who are on the bus because they agree with your why. They're passionate. They're sitting in the right seat in the bus, which means that they're using their talents in the right way, right? And we're all moving together in the same rhythm. And if you've got the right team moving in the right direction, then whatever obstacles hit the road, you can know whether to go around it or to get out the bus and tear that obstacle down. But you've got the cohesion, you've got the backbone of an organization that can handle whatever changes. And changes will come. The one thing that happens, they say, the first casualty of any battle plan is your plan. Right? So you have to have a team that can adapt.
So that goes to point number 3, accepting the brutal facts of reality while maintaining an unwavering faith that we will prevail. So reality coupled with faith.
Yeah, they refer to this as the Stockdale paradox. So if you've ever heard of Admiral Stockdale, he spent, I believe, 8 years as a POW in Vietnam. And his story was a story of resilience, leadership resilience. And he helped people survive that experience. He became the rock that helped people endure through that. And when they interviewed him and said, who are the people that didn't make it? He said, the people that didn't make it were the optimists. They told themselves, we're gonna be out of here by Christmas. And then Christmas would come and they weren't out of there. And they say, okay, we'll be out of here by Easter. And Easter would come and they're not out of there. And so he said, those people would die of a broken heart.
I'd be dead. I'd be dead.
What were the qualities of those that survived? Yeah.
So the people that survived were people that were able to maintain optimism while also being realistic about the fact that today, next week, Easter, it's not going to be good. We're enduring a difficult reality right now, but we're going to find meaning and purpose, and eventually, that's the key word, eventually, think infinite game, eventually there'll be success, right? And so that's really the story of the church, isn't it? Yeah. We know that church life, there's suffering in this world, right?
Today's going to be hard.
Right. Today's going to suck, but we're going to win. Eventually.
At some point, he's coming back.
Right.
That's a sermon title, Jack. Thank you for that.
Number 4, hedgehog concept. Heard a little bit about this. Explain it. Give it simply to us, operating in 3 circles.
So this is the classic Venn diagram, right? The 3 circles and the area that overlaps, that's your sweet spot. So what Jim Collins finds in his book is that these great organizations have mastered the hedgehog concept. The hedgehog does one thing, and he does it awesome. He rolls himself, whenever there's danger, he rolls himself in a ball, and he's covered by this armor of spikes. And so the fox that wants to get the hedgehog, he always fails. He's always trying to trick the hedgehog, always trying to do different techniques. The hedgehog just does one thing over and over again and just survives because he just does the one thing that he's awesome at, right? So the 3 circles of building your hedgehog concept, becoming the hedgehog, is understanding what you're passionate about. What are you really passionate about?
I just couldn't. Yeah. I mean, I don't
Aren't they adorable?
Don't see this every day, so that's what we're talking about here.
You should be the armadillo concept from Texas, right?
Okay, yes. Get in the hole.
Yeah.
So what you're passionate about?
Passionate. So what are you passionate about? What can you be best in the world at? So expertise. That's a differentiator, because a lot of organizations may have similar patterns, but the things that set you apart is what you can be. Not necessarily what you are, but what you vision you can be the best in the world at. And then the third is a resource driver, a revenue driver. Even nonprofits and churches, we have resources that we need to build up in order to continue our mission. And so understanding what that resource driver is in the form of a ratio, there's a denominator there. So how you define that denominator can have a big impact on how you lead. In a church case example, let's just say it's giving is what you want to go after. And there's a debate that maybe it's not giving, but let's just say it is giving for a church. So is it giving per attender, per member, or is it giving per campus? If it's giving per campus, you can achieve a high level of giving by getting really, really, really big, right? Your per worshiper giving may be poor, but your per campus giving may be huge by getting ginormous. If you're saying you want generosity per member, that is a whole different thing. That's getting into deep discipleship with people right now and really teaching people to follow Jesus. So the 2 different ways that you measure can have 2 different results.
Yeah.
Right?
And you would say a church has to differentiate based on our context. What are we passionate about? What could we be world class at? And then what's the economic driver? How do we resource this thing? I would say for an individual too, what am I passionate about? What have I been gifted to do? What does the world need? And what can I get paid to do to contribute toward beauty in the world? So this Venn diagram or hedgehog concept is very, very helpful.
Personal hedgehog, hedgehog concept, your personal 3 circles then helps you to know where you need to be sitting in the bus.
Amen.
Right?
Last one, flywheel concept.
Flywheel concept. This is the concept of, they use the word marginal gains. So imagine a gigantic flywheel. I think about the big, the big wheels, the water wheels, on the river. Okay. Big, heavy, bulky things. If you want to move it, you push it and it moves an inch because it's so heavy. And so you push it again and it moves an inch. And you keep pushing and you keep pushing, and just kind of like pedaling a bicycle up, from 0 to 20 miles an hour. The first few pedals, the first pushes are the hardest pushes. And then as you keep pushing, there's momentum. The pushes get more effective. And eventually, for the same amount of pushing, you're pushing something that's going really fast and maybe even unstoppable. That's what a flywheel is. It's got momentum and inertia built into it.
Amen.
So the concept of marginal gains is built on this idea that the great organization isn't great because they had a single breakthrough. The great organization is built on 100 or 1,000 small wins.
Little pushes.
Right.
Little wins.
So good.
Yeah. When you were talking, humor as well, like Cobra Kai. At some point, the Cobra Kai guy, he puts these kids into a cement mixer.
Oh yeah, I saw that episode.
And they're like, I can't do this. Oh my! And they're falling into the cement. I didn't even know what that thing looks like inside. Yeah. Cement everywhere, of course. But they start to finally get it going, and then it starts to spin. So that image of just, you think like, no way, I'm going to be stuck in the cement. I'm stuck in a rut as an organization, as a leader with COVID. But no, get a few people. It wasn't the whole team, but it was the first person to say, hey, I'm willing to get into the mess, and then to take that step and work really hard. But then once it happened, you saw the excitement, and it was inspirational.
The story I like to tell is it's called the 1% rule, and this goes to the British Olympic cycling team. They used to be kind of a joke in terms of their performance, and then a new leader came in. He had a very business mindset. He's thinking, can we take concepts from the business world and apply it to sports? And so his approach to coaching was, let's make 1% improvements. Right? Let's be very intentional about improving performance by 1%. So a 1% improvement could be, let's get better pillows for everybody. So when you're on the road, you sleep better. Well, if you sleep better, you perform better.
They got different pants. Yep. It was just more slick, or right. They weighed less, like by just a little.
Shave off a couple ounces off of your bike. Wash your hands all the time. Washing your hands all the time meant that they got sick less, which meant that they're able to train harder, right? That's right. And miss fewer performances. So the cumulative gains of 1% gains turn them from an underperforming team to a dominant team.
Very hopeful, right? Because you don't have to think about 50%. We got to get on our team after this podcast and change up half the things. No,
Marty and I
1%.
Yeah, Marty and I used this when we were cleaning our garage out because we had a bunch of junk in our garage, and we're like, I don't even know where to start. Well, let's clean up the garage by 1%. Oh yeah, we can do 1%. And all of a sudden you've done 10% or 20%.
And 2 years later, you're done.
Exactly. 2 years later, you're done.
Thanks for being with us today on Lead Time, Jack. You're a gift to the church, gift to our team, and apply good to great, high-level books like this to your organization, to your church, to your business. It will make a difference as you move. We need more churches, more organizations that make that journey. Level 5 leaderships, level 5 organizations for the advancement, most especially of the gospel, that more people would be moved from hell into heaven for eternity. Thanks so much for hanging.
I was touched
How
by
your
opening with the differentiator of the different books. So I want you to memorize this, okay? So you can approve of this or not, but the first one is sky. So you're looking into the sky, the vision. This is to
Metaphors.
Your alliteration. The second one is seats. So that's the team leadership. What seats on the bus? That's team leadership. Systems, you already said that. And then it's structure, which would be people. Structure. And then it's self, the autobiographical. So sky, seats, systems, structure, self. I was listening.
You did that on the fly. How about that?
Learn from the best over here. All right. No. Have a great day, and please share Lead Time with someone that you know needs to hear this message, and we're in your corner. Reach out to us. We'd love to sit with you as well to help consult you, be a listening ear, and also talk more about leadership. Peace.
Amen. Later.
God bless.
You have been listening to Lead Time with Tim and Jake. You can subscribe on your favorite platform where you listen to podcasts, or by visiting christgreenfield.church/CGTV. Thanks for listening. Tune in next Friday for another episode of Lead Time.